The day my father called, the office printer was jamming for the third time that morning, and my manager was preparing another speech about quarterly targets I no longer cared about. I almost ignored the ringing phone, but something in my chest tightened when I saw his name. My father had never been the type to call casually. "Elena, we're losing Vigna di Sol," he said before I could even greet him. His voice cracked on the Vineyard's name as if the words scraped his throat raw. "The bank's final notice came today. We might have to sell." For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The Vineyard wasn't just our family business. It was the place where I learned to walk, where I stained my hands purple every harvest as a child, where my grandfather told stories about the first vines he planted after the war. The land was history and hope intertwined, a living reminder of the people who had built it with blistered hands and quiet pride. Losing it felt like losing the spine that held our family upright. I booked a flight home that night. When I arrived the next morning, the Vineyard looked unfamiliar. The vines drooped in exhaustion, their leaves curling like clenched fists. The old irrigation pipes rattled weakly, leaking more water than they delivered. The fermentation room smelled stale, the equipment outdated by at least a decade. My parents greeted me with forced smiles, but I could see the fear behind their eyes, fear of failure, of losing everything, of admitting they had let the Vineyard slip through their fingers. Things got complicated. My father murmured as we walked the rows together, "Your mother kept hoping business would pick up. I thought the drought would ease. You should have told me sooner." I said gently, "You were building your life." My mother answered, "We didn't want to drag you back, but I wanted to be dragged back. I wanted to save the place that had raised me." That same afternoon, I sat at the kitchen table with spreadsheets, loan documents, and old business plans spread across every inch of the wooden surface. I called banks, suppliers, agricultural consultants, anyone who might help. I worked until the sun dipped behind the hills and the shadows of the vines stretched across the floor like dark rivers. Then, with a clarity I hadn't felt in years, I made the decision. I liquidated everything, my savings, my stocks, my retirement fund, even the deposit I'd set aside to finally buy my own apartment. Every cent I had ever earned went into rescuing Vigna di Sol. My parents tried to protest. My father even raised his voice, something he rarely did. "Elena, this is too much. You shouldn't sacrifice everything for us." "This isn't for you," I said. "It's for the Vineyard, for for the future." I hired agronomists to revive the soil, replaced the irrigation system, renovated the cellar, and negotiated better contracts with distributors. I introduced digital inventory systems and modern branding strategies. I worked 12-hour days, pruning vines in the morning and analyzing finances at night. Slowly, the Vineyard began to breathe again. Green returned to the leaves. The grapes plumped with life. The workers smiled with renewed hope. My parents praised me often, but always with a curious undertone. "Lucia will love these changes," my mother said one evening. "Your sister has such a good eye for presentation." My father added. I ignored it. I thought my work spoke for itself. I thought blood meant loyalty. I thought saving the Vineyard meant saving my place in the family. I had no idea how wrong I was. By the time the Vineyard's future seemed secure, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: pride. A quiet, steady kind, rooted not in praise but in the certainty that I had rebuilt something truly worth saving. The workers trusted me, the vines responded to my care. The numbers in the ledgers finally shifted from bleeding red to cautious green. So, when my father announced a special family meeting, I assumed it was to formalize what we all knew was coming. I would become the new CEO of Vigna di Sol. I had earned it not through entitlement, but through sweat, sleepless nights, and every cent I had ever owned. The meeting took place in the tasting room I had renovated. Sunlight filtered through the large windows, casting warm, golden light over the polished oak table. Investors, board members, and long-time employees trickled in with hopeful smiles. Several patted my shoulder as they passed. "Elena, we wouldn't be here without you," Signora Morty said, nodding with respect. I smiled, feeling my throat tighten with emotion. After months of holding the vineyard together by sheer will, it finally felt like the world was tilting back into balance. Then the door opened and Lucia walked in. She wore an ivory pantsuit tailored to perfection, her hair styled in loose, effortless waves. She moved as if gliding, heels clicking lightly, perfume trailing behind her like a declaration. Everyone turned to look. Of course they did. Lucia had always possessed a charm that pulled people's eyes toward her, even when she had no idea what she was doing. "Hello, everyone," she chimed, flashing a bright smile as though she owned the room. "Sorry I'm late. Parking was a nightmare." I stiffened. "Why is she here?" My mother gave me a puzzled look. "It's a family meeting, dear." Family meeting, yes, but one that was supposed to decide the future of the vineyard, not a fashion runway. Lucia hadn't touched the vineyard's soil since our grandmother's funeral 3 years earlier. My father cleared his throat and stood. "Thank you all for joining us," he began. "Today, we announce the new CEO of Vineyard, the person who will guide us into a brighter future." My heart pounded. This was it, the moment my sacrifice would finally be acknowledged. My father's eyes drifted around the room, then landed not on me, but on Lucia. "We are proud to appoint Lucia Rossi as the new CEO." The words slammed into me like a punch. Applause erupted. Chairs scraped. Lucia pressed a hand to her chest in feigned humility. "Oh my goodness, Papa, thank you," she gushed, standing to hug him. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. My mind went blank as if someone had wiped it clean. Lucia, CEO. She didn't even know the difference between pruning shears and grape scissors. My father continued speaking, unaware of the cold numbness spreading through me. "Lucia has a strong modern vision," he said, "a fresh image for the brand, and she has natural charisma, which is essential for leadership." My mother added, "She understands young consumers, and she has such a creative mind." "And what do I have?" I asked, my voice sharp but trembling. "What did I do wrong?" My mother touched my arm gently, as if trying to soothe a child. "Elena, you're brilliant, but you're too serious, too emotional. A CEO needs charm. You're better behind the scenes." Behind the scenes. After everything, after giving them everything, heat rose behind my eyes, but I refused to let a single tear fall in front of them. I gathered my folder, filled with plans, projections, and ownership documents, and stood. "I see," I said quietly. "Congratulations, Lucia." Lucia smiled sweetly. "Don't be upset, sis. We all have our strengths." I walked out before I could say something I would regret. Outside, the sunlight felt harsher, almost mocking. The vineyard stretched in front of me, alive because of me, yet suddenly no longer mine. Their applause still echoed in my ears. In that moment, something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not violently. Just enough to change everything that came after. For 3 days after the meeting, I wandered the vineyard like a ghost. The vines swayed in the breeze, whispering reminders of everything I had poured into them. My time, my money, my hope. People greeted me gently, cautiously, as if afraid that one wrong word might make me shatter. I didn't shatter. Instead, I grew quiet, focused, cold in places where warmth used to live. While the family celebrated Lucia's appointment with champagne and glossy photos posted online, I sat in my old bedroom, flipping through every document I had signed when I invested in the vineyard. I read slowly at first, then faster as realization began to dawn. They had forgotten something. When you invest every euro of your net worth to save a business, you don't simply give it away. You own part of it, and in their eagerness to hand Lucia a sparkly title, my parents had overlooked the details. The kind of details I had spent years mastering in the corporate world. Ownership percentages, voting rights, exit clauses. I had more leverage than they remembered, but I didn't want to use it to force my way back in. No, my revenge needed to be cleaner than that, deeper, the kind of revenge that grows in silence before blooming in full view. On the fourth morning, while the family was preparing Lucia's vision for the future presentation, I drove to the little plot of land I had once dreamed of buying for myself. It wasn't much, only a few acres tucked between rolling hills, but the soil was rich and the sunlight generous. I signed the lease that afternoon. I named it Rosa Alba, after the way the dawn light used to spill across the vines when I was a child. A red sunrise, the promise of new beginnings. I used what savings I had left, then sold my car and borrowed from a few close friends who believed in me. Two of the vineyard's most reliable workers, Marco and Angela, approached me quietly, asking if I needed help. "We saw what they did to you," Angela said softly. "We know who saved the vineyard." I hired them without hesitation. Starting from scratch felt terrifying at first. There were no renovated cellars or high-tech systems here. Just soil, sunlight, and the determination that hummed like a second heartbeat inside me. I planted the first vines with my own hands, pressing each root into the earth as if anchoring myself to a future no one could take away. Word spread faster than I expected. An ex-distributor reached out. A wine blogger visited and wrote an article titled "The Real Rossi Vision." People began stopping by my tiny tasting shed, just a wooden table, 3 stools, and a chalkboard sign. But they left with full hearts and bottles they couldn't stop talking about. Meanwhile, Vigna di Sol's transformation under Lucia was less inspired. Her modern branding alienated long-time buyers. Her influencer parties drained funds. She ordered grapes picked too early because she liked the aesthetics of early harvest photos. Distributors complained that the wine tasted confused. Investors whispered about her lack of focus. One afternoon, my mother showed up at my new winery, her eyes red, rimmed. "Things are harder than we expected," she admitted. "Lucia is overwhelmed." I offered her a polite smile, nothing more. My revenge wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I wasn't plotting their downfall. I was building my own rise, and rise I did. My first batch of Rosa Alba sold out before it even finished aging. A regional wine magazine featured me as the valley's new force. Orders came faster than I could produce. Each success was a quiet echo of justice. I didn't tear my family down. I simply built something stronger and let the world decide which sister truly understood how to lead. And slowly, painfully, inevitably, the world started choosing me. Lucia's downfall didn't happen in a dramatic explosion. It happened in small, avoidable cracks she refused to acknowledge until they widened beneath her feet. The first sign came in the form of a scathing review from a respected wine critic. "The vineyard shows potential," he wrote, "but lacks consistency, identity, and proper vintage management." I rate it only because someone forwarded it to me with a sad face emoji. I felt neither sad nor triumphant, just unsurprised. The second sign came a month later when a distributor canceled a long-standing contract, citing operational unpredictability. Lucia responded with a glamorous photo shoot in the vineyard, posing amid the grapevines as if Instagram could solve financial mismanagement. My mother reposted every photo, adding excessive heart emojis, while my father tried to justify Lucia's decisions with increasingly strained optimism. Then the drought came, not a severe one, but enough to test any vineyard's discipline. Under proper leadership, Vigna di Sol would have weathered it. But Lucia had diverted money from irrigation upgrades to host a Summer Under the Stars festival, complete with fireworks and imported Daker. The fireworks were beautiful, the vine dehydration that followed was not. By autumn, the vineyard was on the brink again. My father came to my winery first. He stood at the entrance of Rasa Alba, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. Shoulders drooped, eyes hollow. "Elena," he said softly, "we need your help." I set down the crate I was carrying. I thought Lucia had everything under control. He flinched just barely. "We made a mistake. I didn't answer right away." I looked around my modest but thriving space, the rows of barrels aging steadily, the employees chatting while labeling bottles, the small sign with my logo hanging proudly above the door. Everything here was mine. Mine because I built it, not because someone handed it to me. "We want you to come back," he continued. "As CEO, the board supports it. Investors are begging for it. We'll give you full authority, Elena, whatever you want." My mother came the next day, carrying a basket of figs from our old tree. "Your father is too proud to admit it," she said gently, "but we chose wrong. Lucia wasn't ready." I wondered if they realized their mistake because they genuinely understood, or because their comfort was threatened. "Is Lucia okay?" I asked. My mother hesitated. She won't admit it, but she's struggling. The pressure wasn't what she expected. Pressure she had never truly earned. I invited my mother inside. I made us tea. I listened to her apologies, but forgiveness wasn't the same as forgetting, and returning wasn't the same as healing. "Please think about it," she whispered before leaving. I did think about it for days. I walked through my little vineyard, feeling the earth breathe beneath my boots. I tasted the latest batch with Marco and Angela, laughing at how far we'd come. I watched customers come and go, faces bright with discovery. Finally, I made my decision. When my parents returned a week later, hopeful and nervous, I met them outside among the rosemary bushes. "I'm not coming back," I said gently. Shock flooded their faces. You're choosing this tiny place over your family's legacy?" my father asked. I shook my head. "No, I'm choosing my own legacy. You asked me to save the vineyard twice. I did it once. The second time isn't my responsibility." My mother's eyes glistened, but she nodded slowly, painfully, as if finally understanding. Vigna di Sol declared bankruptcy 3 months later. Rasa Alba expanded into 2 new regions the following year. People said my success was the perfect revenge. But it wasn't revenge, it was proof, bright, undeniable proof, that I didn't need their crown.